When you think of horror series that messed with your real life, Final Destination is definitely one that comes to mind. I still can't drive behind a log truck. This is 2009's The Final Destination. Spoiler alert, while I might be giving you my opinion on the film, that's no substitute for watching it yourself. Links to the film are in the description. At a local race, we meet Hunt, Lori, and Janet, who are obviously there for different reasons. Lori and Janet are there to watch an actual race, but Hunt just seems to be there to see someone wipe out and eat it on the road. Soon, Nick shows up with all the food and drinks, but when he sits down, he cracks the bench. We all know how these Final Destination movies go. All of these things and events that don't seem to be related all work out a certain way as fate decides. Then one of these things keeps fate from taking those that were meant for death. And we spend the rest of the movie watching those people try to stay alive, while death takes them one by one. It's a really simple but effective premise that will make you start looking at all of the little things going on around you for the next month at least. See? This is the start of it. If it weren't for that little oil spill, nothing would happen. This whole series is just a lesson in cause and effect. As Nick starts to look at a bunch of different circumstances around him, he feels as though something reaches out and touches him. Suddenly, race cars start to flip, and death starts when tires fly into the stands, and more cars explode, which causes pandemonium in the stands. I mean, people are dying in every way imaginable, and they're somehow expecting to top all of these kills with even bigger ones throughout the movie? They're setting the bar kind of high, but they've pulled it off 5 times already. What's one more time? As main characters start to die, you really start to wonder how anyone's supposed to make it into the movie. But it's all a premonition. Traditional Final Destination setup. I guess if it isn't broken, don't fix it. When Nick comes back to reality, he uses his premonition to convince his friends that he knows what's coming, and he takes this chance to try and save his friends. As a chain reaction happens, more people that were meant to die follow him out of the stands, and he tries to tell them about the premonition as the car crashes and people rush out.
Have you all lost your mind?
I guess not everyone's saved by leaving the death area. I mean, hell, she might have been one of the few that would have survived if she had stayed put. You never know when it comes to knowing the future. Saving a few might damn another one. Later on, we see the 4 friends sitting at a local coffee shop, and they all seem shaken up by narrowly missing death. When Janet asks Nick about what his premonition was like, he can't really explain it, but they try to figure out if they should forget about it, or try to figure out what happened. Either way, Nick tries to make sure they're all thankful for the second chance they got, and the next night, Nick and Lori head to the memorial that's being held at the Speedway. As they leave, they run into a bunch of people that made it out thanks to Nick's warning. Some of them are thankful for the warning, while others want to know what makes him so special. The security officer shows up to get answers. But one of the rednecks that lost his wife shows up to blame the officer for not allowing him to go back in to get his wife. You win some, you lose some. It sucks when it comes to freak accidents like that, but there's really no other way to handle something like that. If everyone had a Nick to warn them, then we'd be fine. But even he's haunted by more visions that night. Something seems to be telling him what's to come for him and his group of friends that escaped death. That night, the redneck's driving around drunk in his tow truck, and he heads for the security officer's house. When he sees the light go out, he pulls a cross out of the back of the truck, and he happens to drop the tow hook while grabbing his shovel. While he starts to dig a hole, a series of events happens that causes the truck to throw itself into drive, and when the man comes over to stop it, he gets hooked by the tow hook. A can of gas falls over and spills behind the truck, and the tow chain sparks the gas while the redneck's being dragged behind. Well, that's death number 1. We all know that there will be at least 5 more, so get ready for some creative ones, hopefully. I feel like the kill progression through the Final Destination series is similar to the kill progression of the Saw franchise, but which one had some of your favorite kills? The next morning, Janet calls Lori to tell her to turn on the news, and Lori and Nick see that the redneck died the night before. During the report, Nick notices the door to the security guard's house, and he recognizes it from his dream. Meanwhile, in town, we see another series of events that we all know lead to another grisly death. This time it looks like the MILF. Now, before you all go crazy in the comment section, that's her character name. I didn't come up with that. This woman's in the movie longer than some of the other named characters, but somehow her name is still just MILF. I think someone in the studio was a little thirsty, and honestly, the situations around her death are all warning signs that I already looked at with caution. When a ceiling fan wiggles as much as the blades rotate, yeah, it's time to get out from under it. Heat sources next to chemical bottles, those big hairdryer things or whatever they are. Not to mention the nail technician was scraping so intensely under her nails with that metal file, you're just asking for something here. What part gets her? None of them. Perfect misdirection yet again. Yet another thing to watch out for. Mowers running over things. Are you making a list of everything? I feel like no one wanted to even go outside after the first destination came out. Later, Nick and his friends see the report of what happened at the salon. And Laurie explains that Nick had a premonition again before the redneck died. He explains that it showed images of ways they were all going to die, and they show the friends an article about the airplane from the first movie. It becomes clear that they're going through the same thing, but they don't know a way to break the cycle for sure. The only ones that seem to believe everything seem to be Laurie and Nick, and efforts to keep the others around seem to be futile. Suddenly, Nick gets another premonition, and he thinks he can stop things if he and Laurie go back to the racetrack. Nick goes through the order of how people were supposed to die, and he knows who dies next. I wish more movies spent time like this. We don't have to wait for them to figure out the solution for the 6th time in the series. Nick just pieces it together instantly, and he even has people that believe him immediately. Scream could take a lesson from this. When they get in touch with the mechanic who's supposed to die next, he seems to believe them. But it turns out that Nick's actually helping fate play out how it was intended.
I guess it's not my turn to die.
Alright, let's add pressurized containers to the list. I bet some of you will think twice about changing a propane tank again. Meanwhile, some of you will continue to smoke while changing a tank even though you can still smell gas. PSA, let's not test fate. Hunt decides to use his last moments on Earth by enjoying the finer things in life. Namely, another woman by the pool that he adds to his list. At the same time, Janet gives change to a homeless man and ignores the missed calls from Nick and Laurie. What's annoying is that I think bird poop on her windshield is part of her chain of events. If we could stop doing Final Destination kills in the cars, that would be great. I seriously can't drive behind a logging truck without having flashbacks to a death that isn't even mine. I think we might get a double whammy this time though. We seem to be following Janet and Hunt at the same time, and neither of them seems to be thinking too much. Janet takes her car into the car wash, but her antenna's broken off and seems to mess up the circuit breaker for the car wash. Suddenly her car stops moving forward, but the car wash continues. To top that off, her sunroof short circuits and a broken pipe starts to flood her car with water. At the same time, Hunt loses his lucky coin in the pool, and he swims down to the drain to try and get it. He ends up getting sucked to the bottom of the pool where he can't get out or call to anyone. Janet's car wash isn't going well still. The sunroof's closed on her neck, and the vehicle starts to move forward again. The security guard shows up just in time to push her car back, but after Laurie pushes the sunroof open, they still barely miss death when a pipe takes out the windshield. Nick isn't so lucky though. He gets to the pool and looks for Hunt, but the one place he doesn't look is the drain in the pool. And Hunt ends up getting his entire innards sucked out by the pool filter. Alright, no pools this summer. I know Janet didn't die in the car wash, but let's just go ahead and throw that one on there too. Better safe than sorry. And I don't trust him anyways. At least that's one more place I don't have to worry about dying in. Suddenly, the security guard realizes that he's technically next, but it comes down to whether saving Janet actually broke the cycle. Back at the apartment, Laurie and Nick try to get rid of all the things that could potentially be dangerous, and Nick assures her that they're in this together no matter what. After getting a signal by whatever power's been speaking to Nick, they head for the security guard's house to tell him that they think the cycle's been broken. They show up in time to see the security guard try to hang himself, but that doesn't go as planned. It turns out that he's been trying to kill himself all day. Nothing seems to be working. So they assume the cycle's been broken, and they toast while talking about what they plan to do with the new future they've been given. Don't get too comfy. This is a feature-length film. There's at least 20 more minutes before anything gets solved. This is that false sense of security that comes with all the horror movies of this time. They thought this counted as a twist, but there's no way the problem's been solved within an hour. How stupid do they think we are? The next day, Nick seems to be packing up some things, and he has a calm conversation with Laurie on the phone. Suddenly, Nick gets another premonition, and the news turns on to show that the cowboy was actually next. They got the order wrong, and they try to get to the hospital in time to save him, but fate has other plans. Don't lie down under hospital tubs, got it. This list is definitely becoming a list of things I never did anyways. I'm feeling pretty good after this entry. In town, Laurie and Janet are enjoying a girls' day at the mall, and things seem to be a little suspicious for Laurie. Just then, don't cross the road without looking both ways. Who didn't learn that as a child? That one's on him for sure. All he had to do was check the road. Don't you love how Nick was walking right with him, but somehow he was walking that millisecond faster that counted? Nice. Everything seems to be freaking Laurie out, but it all turns out to not really mean a thing, as they both go to the theater that's in the mall. Sure enough, something's already working out its timeline to be a key part of the chain of events. As the girls sit in the theater, they have no clue that things are literally in the works behind the screen. Laurie seems to be getting small premonitions now, but Janet blows them off as circumstance. At the same time, Nick shows up outside, but it's Laurie that pieces things together this time. Nick shows up at the exact time that things are about to happen, but no matter how much they try to tell Janet to leave, she refuses. Alright, I don't think I can do this one. I can't even support this one. It's the movie theater! If that's the way I go, then so be it. The explosion in the theater causes the rest of the mall outside to fall apart, and soon, someone else meets their demise. This one, on the other hand, is definitely a real fear. Has anyone else ever wondered if there's a killer escalator out there that just sucks people up if they don't step off in time? I jump off those things so early that I almost fall back down it while trying to catch my balance. The unseen monster's not gonna get me. Oh, and she definitely dies here. But this is one of those gruesome kills that I definitely can't show you. It turns out that this is all deja vu for Nick as he finds himself back at the security guard's accident. This time when he gets to the theater, he goes to find the fire that causes everything. He puts out the fire, but one final ember makes its way to a pile of wood shavings and sets it on fire. At the same time, a nail gun falls and pins Nick to a pillar while poking holes in flammable barrels next to him. Granted, I've never been in this situation, but it's time to nut up and yank your arm off that pillar. Nails or no nails, rip holes in your arm now and handle this. Instead, he triggers the water system. But how long did you really think that was gonna work? Well, it turns out that a puny sprinkler system manages to win against the raging inferno that's already reached flammable containers. Don't trust movie logic, just play it safe. Later, Nick, Janet, and Lori head to their coffee shop to enjoy their peace as they believe they're done with all this death business. Once they sit down, Nick gets flashes of signs that warn him it isn't over. Once it finally hits him, it's already too late. There's no way to cheat death, remember that. It always wins in the end. Make the most of the time you have. For a Final Destination movie, I can't complain too much. There's only so many twists and turns that they can really throw out there. I essentially grade these on the kills, and this one was mediocre when it comes to the deaths. Still a good time though, check it out. Here's some other gruesome horror movies to try out next. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.